Hey, it's Joel from The Hack Life. I'm here with Dr. John Jaquish, founder of Osteostrong and the originator of the X3 bar.
I'm the inventor of Osteostrong. The founder is actually Kyle Zagrodzky.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He started the company.
Sorry,
it was based on my. Oh no, he's. Well, it's okay. I'm here to.
You're here to clarify.
Give him the
all
credit.
that.
Yeah. He had the whole vision of like the clinic, that like the special venue, because I was actually delivering osteogenic loading medical devices to doctors' offices, and they would treat like 5 people with a device, and they'd be like, "Hey, it's a big success." And I'm sitting there going, "How about 5,000 people?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?" And they didn't care what they paid for it, because they charged each customer a couple $1,000s to solve their bone density problem, and for them it was worth it. But it's like, let's bring this to the mainstream, and that was Kyle's vision for my technology.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And so it's so interesting that it was actually, I always just assumed it was private, because when I always think about the Western medicine approach, it just seems like they don't want people to get better. So I didn't even think that they were using it. Instead, I figured they just tell you things like drink milk or something for more calcium in your bones.
Yeah, that doesn't do anything. It's a building block. You got to give the body a reason to use the building block.
Talk to us real quick just about Osteostrong and how it came about. Like, why were you so passionate about it? Why did it come about?
So my mother was diagnosed with osteoporosis, and she was upset, and she felt like it was going to be limiting to her life. And, you see your mother upset, and it's just kind of motivating, like, I got to fix this problem. And so as I started looking into it, high-impact forces is what causes gymnasts to build superhuman bone density. There's a lot of clinical literature on that. And so I just thought, okay, I'm going to emulate impact, and that's what this book is about. Like, Osteogenic Loading is my first book.
Yeah.
And so that's an adaptation of my PhD dissertation on how do we get these high forces into the body, but safely. Because gymnasts also retire on average at age 19. So, and they do that because of the injuries that they receive from the gymnastics training. So
gymnasts should be using Osteostrong.
Yeah, they do.
They do. Okay.
Yeah. A lot of high impact athletics. We have some NFL players. We have anybody who wants to be fracture resistant, or a lot of people in sports where they don't receive a lot of impact, like swimmers, have low bone density. So it's really popular with swimmers. And like we were talking about earlier, it's the chassis of the body.
Yeah.
The bones, the chassis of the body. So the stronger the chassis is, the more powerful the muscle that can be attached to it. So the neural inhibitory process isn't there to shut muscle off, but instead allow more to turn on, so you can build, more powerful musculature.
So you could actually build more muscle if you have thicker, bigger bones. You could actually build more muscle on that chassis.
Oh yeah.
So it's a huge advantage.
Yeah, look at Tongan and Samoan people. They're genetically advantaged, and when they pick up weights, they become powerful.
They're very powerful.
Yeah.
So, like, and I was asking that too. Like, even if I'm just Joe Schmo businessman, I work at Coinbase here in San Francisco or whatever, or I'm an MMA fighter.
Right.
Like, I just feel like not many people are doing this. Or am I wrong? I mean, I feel like this would be huge.
Oh, there's hundreds of thousands of people using Osteostrong. The demo is a little older, so you don't see it as much on social media. But Osteostrong's in 8 countries, has 130 clinics. So it's big.
Yeah. And they're coming to San Francisco soon too, right?
Allegedly. Yeah. Well, there's some great people who are working on it.
Okay.
I trust them. They opened up LA, and it's a couple. The woman, she's from San Francisco, so she knows the Bay Area really well. So they'll do it right.
Yeah.
They do everything right. They're great. They're a
Nice.
great team. Yeah.
Talk to us about, so I think what most people know you for too is the X3 bar. And I have one. I've had one for like 2.5 years. It's a very disruptive and controversial product.
Yes, it is.
And I want to say too, just when I first saw the product myself, I was like, I don't know. And we were talking, like, I see all these biohackers, and some of them biohack everything. They buy every new gadget.
Yeah,
and
they got like a hyperbaric chamber and a bod pod
Exactly.
and a sensory deprivation chamber. Yeah,
and I can't trust them because I'll ask like, hey, how do you like that product? They're
yeah.
like, oh, it's amazing, and
Everything's amazing.
Everything's amazing. It works. It makes me feel better. I feel lighter. I'm like,
right.
Okay. So I remember one guy.
Do you ever think like to yourself like, but you're still overweight?
I do.
Yeah,
Yes.
so many
Yes.
of these guys. It's just like they're doing 20 things for their health, but they're really not that healthy seeming. You're like, really? Okay.
So I see all these guys on social media, a couple biohackers I know that are using the X3 bar, and I'm like, okay, I'm looking at it. I'm like, I don't know. A couple of things happened to me. One, I had a kid, and
So your time disappeared.
disappeared. So I used to go to a
Yeah.
CrossFit gym, and I'm like,
No,
I
you don't have time for that.
don't have time for that. I don't have time. I don't have that time. And the X3 bar, one of the things I really liked was 10 minutes a day, and I'm like, no effing way, like no way.
Yeah.
So it was that, the portability I thought was amazing. And then the other thing was I read the Cornell study about variable resistance. I read that study and I said,
that's the best.
I said, screw it, I'm going to buy it.
Yeah.
So could you tell us
That's why I
about-
called it X3.
Yeah.
Because they had triple the gains. So hence the name. I put like zero thought into the name. I was just like, X3. I actually wanted to call it Triple X first, but then if you go,
So
if you
SEO
get,
would've been
I
bad.
got triplex.com, except it was like all like Google's very confused.
Yes.
It was just like porno everywhere. Like, no,
you were
okay, I
getting
can't
the
do that.
wrong customers. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're getting trolled now. The people that were trolling you then, it would have been way worse.
I don't even know if it would have existed. They would have just been
Yeah.
confused.
Confusing.
Right.
This is not what I expected.
So, the X3 was based on the bone density research because when I did the bone density research, I'm taking deconditioned elderly people and putting 6, 7, 8 times their body weight through their hip joint. And I'm seeing the power that these people are capable of creating. These are not athletes. Some of these people have never worked out a day in their life.
Yeah.
And they're putting these tremendous forces very quickly. Like, this wasn't day one, but like 6 months after the study started, like just incredible forces. And I'm thinking, we're missing the boat here. Like, when we lift weights, it's one weight here and it's the same weight here. And we have drastically different capability from strong range to weak range. And why don't we train accordingly? Now, I was like, okay, there's band training, but the problem with hooking a band on a bar is you're holding X here and maybe, 1.1X here or 1.2X here. But what we really need is X here and 7X here. And so, because that's the fold difference, there's a 7-fold difference from weak to strong range, and that's what I showed in my research. So
And that's from Osteostrong.
that was the Osteostrong research, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at this data, and like I was already busy with Osteostrong. I liked the medical device industry because despite what a lot of reps in medical will say, doctors are awesome to speak with and to sell products to, because if you show them the case for efficacy, they say, yes, I want to do this. This makes sense to me. The problem with the fitness industry is, it's just a clown circus, just like outrageous claims, ridiculous. I don't want to beat up on any of the people because it is what it is. Like, a lot of people mean well. The physical therapists that go into fitness, everything kind of looks an awful lot like physical therapy. And they're doing rehab movements for strength training, which it's like, okay, yeah. However, you're kind of leaving some stuff to the side that is even more important. And, why would you be doing outward rotation exercises when you don't have an outward rotation dysfunction? Like you don't need to change your tire if you don't have a flat tire.
Right.
Yeah. And so I looked at the industry and I was like, I don't want to launch a product here. So what I did was I took the X3 and I brought it to a bunch of different fitness companies. And I said, I'd like to license the intellectual property to you, and you guys market this. and and then I'll just work, without double down my time with Osteostrong and stuff like that, because I was already busy. Like I already had a job. I didn't need another one. And already inventor of something, already the only guy who really be speaking about the Osteostrong technology. And all these guys were like, "Oh, you want to make a scientific argument in the fitness space? Forget it." Like the people in this industry, the fans of fitness, are not smart enough. They can't get it. Yeah, and every single company told me the same thing. And I thought, well, is that really true? Like, are they not smart enough, or are they too lazy to read it?
Yeah.
Because there's a difference there.
Yeah.
So now when none of them they were all afraid of it. They were just like, and they even used the word terrified. In
You
fact,
say they, who do you mean?
I shouldn't name names.
Or,
Because
what industry are we talking about? Like what?
Fitness. They're all fitness industry.
Okay.
Well, actually, one of them was Dave. He doesn't mind me mentioning.
Asprey.
Yeah, I was
Wow.
like, Dave, like we could market this under. We call it Bulletproof Bar.
Ah.
And he was like, honestly, like I'm terrified of the audience that this would be going to. Like you don't understand.
Wow.
Like
His
like
whole platform is disruption, though.
yes, but biohacking people are very different than like bodybuilding.com people.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. And while at first I was told the bodybuilding.com people were too stupid, I think it's really more like just taking the time. And why would they take the time? They're bombarded with ridiculous marketing all the time.
Yeah.
So it's really easy to be dismissive about something new. So, but what happened was, so I ended up launching the product myself. And I had to be the spokesperson, which sucked because I wasn't even in shape. Like the first couple ads, I was like fat and small. Like I had skinny arms, and I didn't have a gut, but I just looked soft.
That's funny because I remember I bought the product, like I said, 2.5 years ago, close to when it first launched, and I don't remember that of you. Like I don't remember that.
If you look back now, if you're seeing me now and you look back, you'd go, "Oh wow!" Like that's a huge difference. And you can see my before and after pictures on the website. Anyway, so the funny part was I had no plan. Like I wasn't comfortable being out of shape. I was flying 200,000 miles a year because of Osteostrong and speaking at all kinds of conferences. And I was eating ketogenic-ish. But, if you're in an airport in Austria, you got pastries, chocolate, or beer. Like, that's all they serve. Oh, maybe some sausages, but, all kinds of processed crap in there. So, like, seriously, I don't know what Austria has against people being healthy, but they really are. They decided, like, a long time ago, no one's going to be healthy here.
I mean, we talked about that, though. Like, beer, these things are amazing. These aren't, we wish we could get healthy that way.
Oh, yeah. Right. But you can't. Right. So I decided to launch it myself, and I was like, I got to get in really good shape, and I got to practice what I preach. And the funny thing is, I would see guys who were out of shape buying the product, and they're like, "Thank you so much for repping this product yourself, being an out of shape guy." And I was like, wow, I guess that's a compliment. I guess I should be happy.
I meant to do that, yeah.
Yeah. It was funny. I mean, I laughed about it because I was not like anybody you would expect to represent something that's like, hey, you want to get really healthy and strong? Like, this is it. And then I was not healthy or strong. But I got there pretty quick. In the first 6 months, I got a lot bigger. I put on 30 pounds of muscle the first year. And I mean, that was ridiculous. Like I was like, I would hardly wear, a shirt and have to replace it because like my neck was getting bigger. Everything was just responding so well. And so all the theoretical stuff, because, you design something, it's on paper. A lot of things look good on paper and just don't have a really good practical application. But this did. And I responded so well. And I also took my nutrition seriously, which I would say if anybody makes a mistake with X3 is they weigh 150 pounds, but they only eat 50 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
And, then they eat salads or whatever and think that that's healthy. And the salad's like nothing. Like just don't, you might as well eat
It's air.
fucking sock. You know, I mean, it's just not. It's like there's not a lot of nutritional value in there. It's
Right.
it's air, it's water, whatever. So I just
When because you real quick, you put 30 pounds of muscle on
Yeah.
that first year. Now, fast forward, which is like 2.5 years later, you put on 60 pounds of muscle. So,
total 60. So the next 2 years, combined.
which is insane. So for you
Yeah.
to, when you were put on 30 pounds, what was your diet? Were you doing like keto-ish or was there?
It was like the bulletproof diet.
Yeah.
Minus a lot of the vegetables, because it's funny. You read the first like 75% of the bulletproof diet, and it's like meat, fats are not that bad for you.
Right.
High cholesterol will actually make you live longer. The bad cholesterol,
Yep.
low density lipoprotein (LDL), which
Yep.
we were told was bad, is now indicated for living longer. So totally the opposite.
Yeah.
It's amazing when the patents on the statin drugs expired, it was just like, oh yeah, everything we told you, yeah, that was all wrong. Which is where like still like the anti-meat, the vegan people,
Yep.
they still rely on research that's been disproven for 20 years. So
Which reminds me, and we talk about the dumb bodybuilders, right? But I almost feel like it's not their fault because I think about the same
they're
thing.
told the wrong
They're
stuff for
told
like
the
their
wrong
whole
stuff,
life.
Their
Yeah.
whole life. Just like saturated fat and just like all
Right.
these other
they're
BS studies, man.
They're eating their protein is like garbage quality whey. By the way, there's no such thing as high quality whey protein. Like whey is like literally trash. In fact, the story of whey protein, I don't know how to pronounce his name. It's Dan Duquesne or Duchesne. I don't know how to pronounce it.
I know what you're
He
talking about.
He died a while ago. Probably running one of his own experiments. He was kind of a crazy biochemist, but he would go to milk producers, and he would be like, all that whey stuff that you guys are literally throwing in the trash, can I have it? And they're like, yeah, take it. It's garbage. Like, it costs us less for you to take it. And then he came out with designer whey protein.
Wow.
Yeah, called it a high-end, probably it was literally trash. And it has very low usability by the body. You can digest it. You digest 100%
And that's
of it.
bioavailability. Is that what we're talking about? But when somebody says digestible?
No, I don't like that term because I'm talking about utilization.
Yeah.
So you can digest a lot of things that do, horrible shit to your body.
Yeah.
But
you still digest it.
You're still digesting them. It's the usability. So 18% of anything that's whey derived is going to be used, has got the proper ratios of essential amino acids. That's what really counts, the essential amino acids. So, they're sucking up whey protein, which also has no fat in it. Usually has some sugar in it, though.
Of course.
And then they have like dry chicken breasts, and they never get satiated because there's no fats.
Yep.
And so they're hungry, and they're bloated, and they're angry. And it's an awful way to live. And they're eating like 6 meals a day like that. Gross. And not producing the right results.
Right.
Right. So, and now I'm eating 1 meal every 48 hours. And I'm leaner.
Every 48
and I'm
hours,
stronger.
that's
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
Wow.
So really,
I
really.
figured you were doing like just a once a day meal, but you skip them. So you're doing every
Right
2 days.
now I am, because I'm trying to I hit a size goal, and then I got a little soft in there, like platters of ribeyes, 4,000 calories a day. That's over my basal metabolic rate plus activity. So now I'm just trying to get a little bit leaner, and stay around 240.
Wow. Talk real quick about fasting and why you can. I mean, you're super muscular, so talk about why. And I know you just mentioned fasting. Talk about why fasting can actually build muscle. Because I don't think the idea again is got to eat every 2 hours. I got to keep
Right.
pounding in protein.
So I think my team and I actually discovered something, and I knew this was out there because I called a guy that we work together. And he's like the smartest guy I know. His name's Henry. He's a co-author on the book that we have coming out. And I said, look, there's never been a study that says fasting is anabolic. It's anti-catabolic. You don't lose muscle because growth hormone goes up when you fast. I said, but my experience, I'm like growing faster the more I fast. So the more often I go through a long, time-restricted eating window, the more size I'm putting on and the leaner I'm getting. It's just, and like I'll see people like here in San Francisco, especially during coronavirus period. I haven't been hanging out here much. I've been staying, like up by my office. So some of my friends I see like every 2 weeks, and they look at me and they're like, "You look like you're in way better shape than last time, and last time you were already a mutant."
Yeah.
So like, what's going on? And I'm like, the only thing I really changed was my fasting protocol. So what I did was I called Henry and I said, do a literature review on every fasting study that's ever been done. And this guy's really patient and really focused. So he's like the right guy to do this, because most people would just not want to read, a stack of papers that are, not particularly exciting, and all the same, by the way. Right. So
but he's like, let's go through it.
yeah.
Let's get into it.
And so what ended up happening, I said, look for something where, like, they're all tracking body mass, lean mass, and fat mass, all of these studies. Find one where the fasting group had lean mass go up and they actually address it, where they say, like, we don't know why lean mass is going up. And he's like, that's really specific, man. I don't think we're going to find that. And I said, the chances are slim, but I'm seeing it. And since they track body mass in all these studies, and sure enough, it's there.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, there was one study that did every other day eating, and it's like, just for some reason, and these people didn't even work out. They did no exercise whatsoever, and they were gaining muscle mass. So what the theory, and I talk about this in much more depth in the book, and give the details on like how exactly they triggered it in the study and how I've been triggering it. But so what we're looking at is a super anabolic acceleration at the end of a fasted period.
Yeah.
So, which kind of makes sense. It's like, okay, so the central nervous system is saying, okay, we couldn't get a meal. We couldn't catch that, water buffalo or whatever. So we need to be stronger. So we need to have a greater anabolic utility. And, also keep in mind, there's growth factors that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
And they're discovering them all the time and doing like there's a journal of IGF-1 and other growth factors. And that journal exists for reporting of other growth factors. So when we're looking at what happened to these people, they kept the weight off. They lost more body fat than the calorie restricted group. The calorie restricted group, of course, lost muscle, because that's what happens.
Yeah.
No matter how upset people get on the internet. But so they lost more fat, but they gained more muscle, and neither the control group nor the test group were exercising at all.
Wow.
Yeah. So
is there anybody else? So that's only one study, though, huh?
yeah, it was the only study he was mentioning. Yeah.
Is there anybody else that that's doing a similar program to you as far as nutrition and stuff that's getting the same results?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a whole network of people that they're on the users group, but they don't talk about what, hey, I want you to try this. And I mean, it's not too tough to figure out who's doing it. Because like the super responders, like the people who I know are using the product right, especially the ones who aren't like inventing their own like really dumb exercises that are just counterproductive.
Such as what? Because that is a question I've gotten a lot. Is can you ask him if there's more exercises we can do or other ones?
Any motorcycle people, like people who get like Harleys, especially people get a Harley and they can't wait to fuck it up. They can't wait to rearrange the thing, right? Like, oh, I got to make it custom, and by really making it custom, you're just screwing it, right?
Yeah.
It's just like, just leave it the way it is. Like, the people like who design these things, like they know it looks good, and you don't. So stop it. Like you wouldn't like buy a suit and cut the sleeve off and just stitch a red sleeve on because it looks cool. Like you'd never do that.
No.
Why do people want to screw up certain things? Like, and exercise programming, for some reason, people just have a hard on for wrecking something that was really well thought out. So it's like, I'm going to do this, but I'm also going to, do a CrossFit program, and I'm also going to do this, and I'm going to get 5 times the results. No, you don't understand physiology. You don't understand biochemistry. You don't understand nutrition, and you're going to get nothing. I actually ran into a person who said to me, I'm doing ketogenic nutrition, but also the Mediterranean diet. And I thought about it, and this person was overweight, of course, because you know where this is going.
Yes.
Like, basically, they like the fat, that they can eat from the ketogenic nutrition, so they can eat as much cheese as they want. And they love that the Mediterranean diet says, oh, you can eat as much bread as you want.
Right.
So what does this person eat? Pizza all day long. And they're like, yeah, I'm not getting a lot of results out of my combined diet. Right, because you don't understand what you're doing.
Right.
You shot yourself in the foot. It's like the stupidest idea, that somebody would have ever heard if they understand the underlying science, and I think, and so when I launched this product, to circle back to when I launched the product myself, within the first few days, we pivoted from people with an interest in fitness to people with an interest in optimizing their time.
Yeah, I mean, that was where I fell in.
Busy professionals and executives. That is who we target that at. We don't target it at bodybuilders. I mean, first of all, like, a bodybuilder with $500 is like unheard of. So yeah, and you know who I heard that from is a bunch of bodybuilders. In fact, the enhanced athlete guys who I do some videos with. They're like, people like threaten to kill us because we're selling a supplement a supplement bottle for like $35, and they're like, where am I supposed to get $35? And I'm like, really? How do you feed yourself? Like, what happens if you break a shoelace? Do you just go without shoes? Like, what? How do you like it? So, yeah, it's a very different market, and there's a reason why Planet Fitness is $9 a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly a market there where no matter how filthy the gym is, no matter how bad the employees are, no matter how stupid the policy is, because the policy is real stupid at Planet Fitness.
I've never been.
If you grunt, you get kicked out.
The $9 always made me wary.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
right.
that's why I just.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't eat a $1 steak.
Right.
Yeah, it's like clearly it's
Yeah.
probably not grass-fed, probably not anything I want to put in my body.
Yeah.
It might even be made out of cardboard. I'm not sure. It might even be a photograph of a steak. Yeah, so I just, like we just switched away from that market completely. And like, I had already been talking to some people at bodybuilding.com about buying some advertising there, and I was like, never mind. And then we got an article in Business Insider and an Entrepreneur magazine, and sales were great. And by the way, there's a lot more executives who want to be in shape or in better shape than they are, because some of them are pretty fit.
Yeah.
But they don't read the kind of Generation Iron or bodybuilding.com type stuff. Because they're looking for a more scientific approach. Also, the word science is so overused in the fitness industry. Everybody says their thing is scientific. So there'll be like a website that sells whey protein, and it'll have like a couple paragraphs of ridiculous claims, and then it'll have 10 references. And you read the references, and it's just about like how protein is important. It like they don't put the reference next to the comment that is controversial. They just put a list of references at the bottom. Anytime you see that, you're probably being lied to. Just references at the bottom as opposed to references attached to specific claims. So I do it like a scientist does it. Like, here's a very bold claim, but here's the reference that explains that bold claim, and it's right there, right after that sentence. Because that's the way to do scientific referencing. Yeah. So I'm always, focused on presenting it right, and because I do make bold claims, so I have to. I have to do it right. Next question.
So, talk to us about the book.
Okay.
Tell us the title, and there's just.
You really want me to say the title?
I do want you to say the title.
Yeah.
And just tell us, what's what's all in there? What are you packing in there?
So it is very thorough. It is a 300-page book with 250 academic references. There's the foreword was written by Forrest Griffin, former light heavyweight champion of the world. We have
How'd you run into Forrest, by the way? What's your connection with him?
Oh, trained together with X3. Just talking about injury prevention, and for a guy like him, who I think he's had 5 orthopedic surgeries, so he's got a lot of joint pain.
Yeah.
And people who want to avoid joint pain, X3 is awesome for them because it offloads the joint when the joint is at the greatest position of risk, and it hyperloads the joint when the joint is in the position of efficiency. So he has no pain when using the elite band in a chest press. So he can train just like I do, but, I have no injury whatsoever in my shoulders, and he has incredible injury. And so, like, all of a sudden, he's like, I can actually just train again.
Yeah.
I can actually get stronger. So we...
I noticed that, too, for myself. Since I've had it, no injuries. And that's, like, one of the reasons why, as I get older and stuff with my kids, it's like, I don't.
You want to be the super dad.
Yeah.
You want to be the dad who goes to the soccer practice, who can pick up your kid and throw him in the air, and all the other dads are like, I can't do that. Yeah, that's going to feel awesome when that happens.
Yeah.
That's how Forrest got involved, but also blurb endorsements from somebody we worked with at NASA, from the head strength coach of the Miami Heat. So the Miami Heat uses X3. They've gone away from weights.
I feel like if you're an MMA fighter or any athlete, maybe not any athlete, but it just makes so much sense because, correct me if I'm wrong.
Any strength athlete.
Yeah, I mean, I used to box a lot. I used to do a lot of martial arts. I was always, trying to find a balance when I was lifting weights, from weights, cardio. Oh, and then I got to go train. I got to go hit the bag. I got to do jiu-jitsu or whatever. Yeah. And it's a lot. It's just like taxing on your body. And I was always confused, like, what should I be doing? Now, if I had to go do it again, I'm like, man, you know what? I'd get my strength from X3, not be sore, and then I go do my sport-specific training.
Of course.
And I'd be great. I mean,
right.
Do you see, right? Am I making sense? Or
You're making complete sense. And what I love about pro athletes, by the way, we got another 5 NFL players to switch completely during coronavirus time. And they just, were like, hey, can you help me out? Like, can you give me some personal advice? They wanted some to speak with me about how this would optimize them for the NFL. Because, they don't want to just buy it and run experiments themselves.
Yeah.
Because if they get hurt, it could mean a $40 million contract.
Right.
Right. So they really wanted to be careful. So I gave them all some personal help. And what I love about pro athletes is they don't care how much they bench. They care what they do on the field because that is what they are paid for.
Yeah.
So they don't have these absolutely idiotic ideas about how they have to bench X so they can talk about it on the internet with the other chubby people who bench a lot or whatever. Like, I just see these kind of like dick measuring contests going on, and it's just so ridiculous. Like, you guys are hurting yourselves. You're using sloppy form just so you can say you do X and your peer group is just as screwed up as you are. Like, forget about all that. Be stronger. Don't exercise so you can talk about it. Because then it becomes a different activity that becomes very dangerous. If we want to talk about longevity, if we want to talk about how we're going to continue to get stronger for the next 5 years, the next 3 is the only thing we're going to talk about. We're not going to be talking about lifting the same weight here where we're completely inefficient and damaging our joints chronically than we would here, because the weight here is irrelevant in this position with a static weight.
Yeah.
So it just doesn't make any sense. So the pro athletes, they don't care about that stuff at all.
They want results.
Exactly. They want the result. They don't care what the path is to get there.
Yep.
And the NBA, they're really funny guys because they're all embarrassed of like their squat numbers and their bench press numbers, because when your arm is 8 inches longer than my arm, your bench press is not going to be impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very inefficient.
Were the Miami Heat, were their minds blown when you showed them like the X3 bar? Were they like, no
better
way?
than that?
Come
It
on,
was like
man.
refreshed. It was like, oh, we've been looking for this.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, I think that pro athletes, now keep in mind, bodybuilders rarely have actual coaches because there's not a lot of money in the industry.
Yeah.
So, like a lot of these guys, somebody told me, like the top 10 bodybuilders in the world, like they don't even make $1 million a year, even with endorsements and everything.
Wow.
Yeah. In fact, some of the physique models make more money than the pro bodybuilding.
Oh, really?
It's more interesting.
Yeah.
Women watch it.
Yeah.
Women don't watch pro bodybuilding. Women watch the physique competitions because those guys look like underwear models. They are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. So, these guys, where was I going with this?
Sorry, we were talking.
I
So
got
we
distracted.
were talking about the book. This all started from the book.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, so the athletes and the strength coaches, they also trust their strength coaches because strength coaches are highly knowledgeable. So when a strength coach says, "This is what you ought to do," and the guys in the Strength Coaching Association, they will say, like, we've been telling our players, hey, like we're doing some stuff, at the gym at the stadium, but check out X3 because I don't think you can get hurt with this thing. And like that's really the comment I've heard from strength coaches is, you can run some experiments with this because it's really hard to get hurt with it.
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, and so that's like a better endorsement than saying it's better than weightlifting, because if it's better than weightlifting and more dangerous than weightlifting, then who cares? Because these guys can't put themselves at risk. They're worth too much money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the only one time I hurt myself with the X3 was doing the deadlift, and
You let go of it?
Yeah. The bar, it was like my last rep. I knew I was like squeezing one last one out, and the bar just slipped out of my hands and landed on my foot. But that could happen in regular weightlifting.
Oh
too.
yeah, people
way worse.
People drop weights on themselves all the time.
Yeah.
The difference is when this thing comes catapulting towards you, it doesn't really have any weight on it. It has momentum.
Yeah.
So, some people do like the stupid grip when they do this with
like
bench press.
what they call the monkey grip or something. I don't know.
Suicide
Stupid
grip.
Yeah.
I call it a stupid grip
Yeah.
because only a stupid person would do it. The bar slides off the hand and nails him in the chest. Well, when you're using the elite band with the bar, it's like for a 6 foot tall person, it's 540 pounds at the top. But when it hits your chest, it's not 540 pounds because it's the elastomer has contracted,
Yeah.
and it's really just the momentum of it falling at a higher speed. So the bar weighs 9 pounds, and it whacks you, and it doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
But it's not like dropping a 500-pound bar on yourself.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, not at all. Like you just go, ow.
Yeah.
And,
it sucked, and it was like,
and then you do the rest of your workout.
Yeah.
Like you're fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So coming back real quick. So title of the book. You got to tell us the title.
Title is Weightlifting is a Waste of Time, and so is cardio.
Can't wait. This is gonna piss people off. It's gonna be completely disruptive in a good way, though.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's controversy gets attention.
Yeah.
But I believe that. I believe weightlifting is a waste of time. Now that I have that, there's no amount of weights. And I get invited to like some world-class gyms, like, whatever, training center, the UFC Performance Institute. Yeah. And it was like, they've got state-of-the-art everything. And it's like, what do you want to try? And I'm like, no, I got my X3. So nothing. You have nothing that I want to try here. Because I can point out what's either not relevant or not important. It doesn't mean that every piece of equipment is dumb. It just means that it's not going to give me what my very elegant, very simple system will give me.
Yeah.
Just, it won't.
What about like, someone asked me this question about, ask them about like different, I don't know, I'm thinking like bilateral movements or like, something for your running gait or like quote unquote, I know you hate this, functional training, like, and I'm
most
thinking
overused word in fitness.
Rotational exercises, the mace, the club, this, the X3 doesn't capture all that. What would you say? What would you say to those
It
people?
depends on what you're doing. Like in writing online, I have to be pretty brief. So sometimes I might come off like everything other than what I invented is just stupid and forget about it.
Yeah.
That's not actually how I feel. That's how I want people to be focused who are on that group, because typically those are just average guys who,
Yeah.
they're not participating in any sport. You want to be lean and strong, and those are your priorities. You're not trying to be a ballerina.
Yeah.
If you want to be a ballerina, then you got to do some other stuff. You got to be strong also. Extra would be great for a ballerina. And I think these guys, it's like the customization with the motorcycle example. It's like they just can't wait to mess with it. And then they'll throw something in there like mace work. And unless you're swinging a golf club, even then, I mean, when you swing a golf club, you swing a golf club. So you're working on your rotation right there.
Yeah.
So, like, do you really need extra rotation? Do you need to add heavy rotation and screw up your golf swing? Because you can do that too.
Yeah.
So, like, unless you're seeing a coach for a specific type of movement, and also, like, X3 is for developing muscular size, power output, the efficiency of switching cells on from a neurological perspective. You're using a lot more muscle cells when you're doing X3 than any other type of training. So you're training the body to switch on more. That doesn't mean it's skill training. So if you've got to balance yourself on a balance beam, or if you're a pitcher and you want to be able to transfer your weight faster from back foot to front foot, there's drills for that, and there's other things you can do for that, and that's great. But see a coach for that.
Yeah.
Like that's not X3. And also the people who are asking these questions, 99.9% of the time, are not pitchers or ballerinas or have anything to do with any of that stuff. Just like stop looking at videos on the internet that are like, you really need rotation.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
Why? Yeah, like that, and that's my question.
Yeah.
Why do you think you need that?
Yeah. And there's something to be said. I mean, these big compound lifts, which like deadlift, squat, like X3 captures that, and so that's always been the foundation.
The stabilization muscles are totally activated and working and growing. So you don't. It's not like you're missing out on a part of the body from a training and growth perspective, but it doesn't cover all skill development.
Right.
And also, somebody who's a great fighter is not necessarily going to be a great pitcher, even though the same muscles are being used.
Yep.
You can't throw a 100-mile-an-hour fastball by doing boxing training. You got to do so. What are you going to do? Everything?
Right.
You're going to do one day of boxing and one day of learning how to throw a baseball. And well, don't you want to be ambidextrous? Let's throw some left-handers. I mean, it's just like you can go down the path of functional training where you can do so many things you can hardly sleep or use the restroom because you want to be well-rounded, functional. Like, no, just forget about that unless you really need to do one of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, like, equestrian athletes that are very well-balanced on a horse, they're not trying to be baseball pitchers, even though both activities are functional.
Yes.
It's specific. So if you want to do something specific, great. Do your X3 and go do that.
That's always been my thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got it right.
Yeah. So talk to me about I've heard you talk about like micro tears in the muscle, and I want to know about, like, really, we talked a lot about the X3, but I don't think we said really why it works. And the belief, at least always since I was like 18 and started picking up weights and lifting, is that you gotta tear the muscle. So you got to do 3 sets of 8, tear the muscle so that these micro tears occur, and then the muscle rebuilds. X3 is not doing any of that, correct? Right. So if X3 is not doing that, how am I getting big?
It's because that's not how you get big. Yeah, the micro tears have nothing to do with growth. In fact, the more micro tears you have, the less growth you'll have, because the protein synthesis has to attenuate the damage before it creates any growth. And this has been well studied. And muscle biopsy studies, like it is It is the closest thing. There is no such thing as definitive science. Like, so when people say the science is settled, those are morons. There's no such thing as settled science. But closest thing we're going to get to it is like tissue biopsy studies, multiple studies that came to the same conclusion. So it's when you stop damaging the muscle that you have the maximum amount of growth. Right. So, like, yes, or I mean, but like marathon runners have more micro tears than bodybuilders do in their quadriceps. But marathon runners, you know, they got legs, you know, that look like twigs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're not growing from that. Like, so, like, if we want to look at micro tears, let's go the other direction. Let's look at people who grow nothing, who are actually shrinking muscle and getting tons of micro tears. Yeah. So like a marathon runner, all they get is the repaired tissue. They don't grow anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So X3 you're getting superb results. So how is X3 building muscle?
It's the higher level of fatigue. It's fatigue and damage are two different things. And the more you fatigue, the more the neural inhibitory process starts shutting muscles off and saying, no, we're not doing this anymore. It's the shut off. It's the involuntary shut off. When people ask like what really fatigue is, it's when you're pushing a muscle and it's shutting down despite your greatest efforts. You cannot do anything to keep it going. It's shutting down. And then we do diminishing range. So if I'm doing a chest press, I'm going just about this cadence, 2 to 3 seconds up, 2 to 3 seconds down, and then I can't get to the top anymore. Then I shorten the range and I'm doing kind of half reps because I'm only, instead of 540 pounds here, I'm doing 300-pound peak force reps here, and then I can't get there anymore. And then the last couple may only be like an inch, but I've fatigued all ranges of motion.
Why is that important? Fatiguing all ranges of motion?
Because, well, in certain movements, different parts of the muscle are firing. Like squats.
Yeah.
Like the glutes are firing more and the quads are firing more depending on your position. You don't need to worry about it just as long as you fatigue all ranges of motion. Because we can go way in the biomechanics weeds. But ultimately, as long as you're fatiguing all ranges of motion at the appropriate weight. One of the hardest parts of developing X3 was coming up with variance that was appropriate because all bands we came across were just too weak.
You've mentioned that and saying like there's a difference between latex, and I'm sure a lot of people, let me just go out and buy a rubber one, and you're like, nah.
No, it's petroleum rubber. And the funny thing about the petroleum ones is they get longer every time you use them.
Yeah, they stretch out.
Right. Yeah. So you think you're getting stronger. No, you're just screwing up your band.
The band,
Yeah. So the layered latex is really important. We did a couple things to make them like harder and stronger than others that were out there. Nobody had ever tried to do that before because if you use an X3 band by itself, like to do a push-up, you could break your wrist. I mean, there's some really irresponsible people who every once in a while try and do that, and I really try and encourage them. Don't do that because, if you look at the human hand, there's more bone structure on this side than there is on this side if you discount the thumb, which you don't want to load the thumb.
Yeah.
So you're doing this, and I mean, it's not like the mirror images of both sides are very different structurally. And so if you have an uneven load, it's going to twist your wrist. So I see when people do push-ups with bands, you're either going so light you're not stimulating any growth at all. And this is true with any band-only exercise. Or you're going heavy enough to damage joints. Yeah. And you're just damaging them in a different way than weights do. So, like, humans interface, like the smallest bones in our body, other than the ones in our inner ear, are in the wrists and in the ankles. And those are the two things that band-only training will screw up. Unless you have a second ground to stand on, like with X3.
That's the grounding plate.
Right. And then a bar, which our hands interface with bars really well, especially one bar. Strongest people in the world use barbells, not dumbbells.
Yeah.
Right.
Because I've seen people saying, why don't you have a dumbbell version? And
Yeah, and I would have much rather developed that. That would have been way cheaper, Way cheaper to build, way cheaper to market, way cheaper to sell. It'd be more saleable. However, not the way the body works. If you're going to push something really heavy or pick up something really heavy, you're not going to use one hand. You're going to use both hands.
And when one hand's firing, isn't there like a cross extensor reflex that like engages anyways? I mean, aren't
A balancing reflex, of course.
Yeah. So
yeah, I mean, try doing a dumbbell bench press with just one arm.
yeah.
And having nothing in the other arm, you'll fall right off the bench.
Right.
Your body, it's got to be balanced. So now legs are the opposite. Unless you're a kangaroo, you walk on one leg at a time. And you run on one leg at a time.
Yeah.
So loading one leg at a time makes more sense than loading both legs at a time. But when it comes to anything with the upper body, you got to be hanging on with both hands to the same structure. And like I see these like cheapo band handles, and it's just like it's a garbage workout. And your wrists are still getting twisted. And like I try and like probably half the time, it's just some of those things in the trash. Don't use that. Use the bar. Use it right.
Let me ask you this, because we're talking about this. I one time I was living with the X3 and I posted on Instagram like my stories or something, and a buddy sees what I posted, does his research, goes to X3 whatever bar.com, then texts me back and says, "What, you were lifting with that? Why is that shit so expensive?"
Yeah.
I didn't even want to go there with him. What do you tell people though? Like what's that, like you're like, okay, backwards hat wearing person.
Yeah.
Like I didn't want to go there with him, but I am curious, like,
Well, I mean, this costs a couple $100s to manufacture.
Yeah.
It's a problem with the internet, actually. It's not just like fitness people or the sideways hat guys or whatever. It's you'll see all the time like something horrible about Apple being like an evil company because it only costs $5 to make an iPhone and they charge $800.
Yes.
Actually, it costs $500 to make the iPhone 11, and they charge $800, and they market it, and they ship it to you, or they ship it, to the store, and they got distribution. They got a whole army of people they got to pay. Yep. So they may be making 15% on an iPhone.
Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank wouldn't be buying that deal.
Well, he exaggerates margins for attention.
Yeah.
Because he wants to be seen like he's the emperor from Star Wars. Right. When it comes to margins, he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
It's like when Donald Trump ran The Apprentice. It's like he was supposed to fire people. That was his job.
Yeah.
So like he wasn't supposed to be a nice person.
Right.
Just so happens that he's good at not being a nice person all the time. He's just so natural.
Yeah.
So the being nice and being effective are not mutually exclusive at all.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys should probably write that down.
I'm glad I just got that life advice.
Yeah, I'm your life coach.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. So that costs a couple $100s to make. So the idea that somebody posts, oh, this costs $5 to make, it's like these people don't know anything. First of all, by seeing a small picture of it, they don't know that unlike an actual Olympic bar's hollow. This has a solid steel core. And that's what links both hooks in the rotation. So this is actually a solid unit. Exterior is anodized aluminum and knurled. Best knurling you'll ever get a hold of. And you can see my calluses. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Like, if I get shot, I hope I get shot right there because nothing's going to happen to me. And then it's a solid steel core, and so everything on the exterior is aluminum, and it's shiny, it's beautiful, and I wanted to create it is the most powerful thing you're going to use to develop your body. I wanted it to feel like a lightsaber, something that's just dynamite. Wow, I feel so good hanging on to this thing, like an iPhone. You pick up an iPhone. When you first, get your new iPhone, you're like, oh, this is so, it feels so tight. It feels so solid. It feels like the thing is just cast in, one material.
And a cool thing, too, I heard you talking about that all your manufacturing is done in the U.S. That's kind of cool.
Not the bands.
Okay.
It doesn't rain here enough to have tree-based latex. Because all the latex is grown in trees. So the rubber tree needs to basically live in a swamp, and we just don't. Even Florida doesn't have the rainfall for latex trees for creating latex. So those are made offshore, and then but every not only is that made in the United States, but every part is made in the United States as well. So that's tremendous.
Yeah.
Also, coincidentally, during the coronavirus, most of the manufacturers, all of them except for one, just kept going.
Yeah.
They were like, no, I mean, this is essential. People need to be fit. In fact, that actually defeats the coronavirus. So,
Right.
yeah, so they told all the local officials we're an essential business. And they were like, okay, you are. Fitness
Yeah,
is
hell yeah.
really important.
Yeah.
So, well, especially because who are they interfacing with? Law enforcement. Does law enforcement think fitness is important?
Yeah.
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 They really do. So it was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we only had one part that's been behind, which is why we've been back ordered for a little bit. But it's okay. It's about to end.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, what are you doing, by the way, for coronavirus? As far as just anything you're doing specifically to like just keep your immune system on in peak performance? Is it just
I just don't watch the news because it's really not
Yeah.
a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not really a threat, hardly at all.
Yeah.
In the very beginning, well, I did a Newsmax piece back when everybody thought it was fecal transference, like hepatitis.
Yeah.
And I was like, why are we worried about something? Now it turns out it's not that. But it was very early days when the disease first came out. And for coronavirus, I don't want to be dismissive, but we see that it affects overweight, diabetic,
Yeah.
COPD, emphysema, and elderly people who have those comorbidities. So really it's affecting people who are pretty sick already.
Right.
So when they say, and there's some memes that are going around that are pretty funny, like man gets attacked by shark, dies of coronavirus.
Yes.
It shows a shark coming out of the water. And it's like, and the reason they're saying that is because somebody with 40 years of emphysema dies, and this was especially, we were counting people as coronavirus deaths before there was a test.
Right.
So they would just be like, coronavirus. It's like, well, maybe the fact that he's been smoking for 80 years.
Yeah.
Since he was like in elementary school, the guy's been smoking. He's had emphysema for half his life. Maybe that's the problem. But no, it's coronavirus.
It's gotta be coronavirus.
So, right. And I ask people, like, anybody who's died? And they're like, well, no. I know some people who had it. Right. Like, anybody here? Know anybody who's died? Know anybody? This is room's full of people.
Yeah.
You guys can't see. But, yeah, there's a whole party here.
Yeah.
Yeah, quiet guys. Yeah, like there's so many people who know someone who's had it.
Right.
I have some friends in New York. They both had it.
Yeah.
There's a couple, and they gave it to each other.
Yeah,
And
good.
yeah, I mean, like the guy, he didn't even know he had it, and the female, she felt lousy. And then they got tested, and sure enough, he had the antibodies, and she had it, and they went home and chilled out in front of the TV and didn't eat any junk food, and hemoglobin A1C score gets better, and it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 0% worried. I'm 100% irritated by. Yeah, and also so I showed up on Newsmax before this thing, like we even knew anything about it. And I said, nobody should worry about this. And the reason I said that is because I'm playing the odds.
Yeah.
Because how many pandemics have we had where the news, which, by the way, is in the business of selling advertising space. Yep. So, they're all making more money the more people are tuned in. So everything is a crisis. Everything's a bigger deal than it really is. And how many times have we told that sea levels are going to rise and all, like port towns are going to be underwater?
Global warming.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was
melting.
NBC said Manhattan would be completely submerged in water by 2015. Jimmy Carter said the world would be out of oil, and I think in 1986.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and why does the news media pick up on that? Because it's sensational.
Yeah.
It's keeping you glued to the TV. So just stop watching the news.
Yeah.
Don't believe the hype. So I really haven't done anything for it. But, my hemoglobin A1C score is 4, which is super healthy. Like I have an incredible healthy metabolism.
Yeah. What other tests do you run on? Because I'm sure people will say, "Oh, he says all this and says that," but can you back it up with like lab results, or what kind of blood or biomarkers do you do a lot of you're keeping track of?
I'm about a year and a half out from the last lab work I did because, like that's when I went. I'd been a couple months carnivore then, and my cholesterol, my LDLs went up, but they didn't go up by that much. My triglycerides were low, but like right at the bottom of normal range. So that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's not a lot to check on. Like, I don't most vitamin levels I don't particularly care to track because I don't think they make that much of a difference.
So you're not taking like a multivitamin or that you don't. No.
People who take multivitamins die younger.
Really?
Yeah, I think that's coincidental. I don't think
Yeah.
there's a cause and effect relationship,
Yeah.
but there is a study that it was done on women specifically. So there's not a male counterpart, but it's the only study we have, so we got to go with it. People who take multivitamins die like 2 years earlier on average.
Wow.
It's probably because they take a multivitamin and they think, "Oh, I'm healthy,"
And then they eat shit
and
food.
right,
Yeah.
and you're right. They use it as an excuse to eat garbage.
Yeah.
I don't think it does anything. Also, if you were to eat a diet of whole foods, just whole foods, so no supplements, no powders, no nothing, how many calories a day would you need to take in foods from all over the world? It doesn't matter. How many calories a day would you need to take in to get to the recommended daily allotments ascribed by the American Medical Association? How many calories?
40,000, something like that.
Great guess. 27,000.
Okay.
So you need to eat 20. You need to eat more than an elephant in calories to get your vitamins from food. So clearly nobody ever ate that way.
Yeah.
So the recommendations are just nonsense. So I don't pay attention to them. I don't test them. I know that I feel a lot better if my vitamin D levels are high, but I spend more time in the sun. Even in the wintertime. When I first started X3, I didn't get a lot of exposure to the sun in the wintertime because I thought, like, I hadn't, met Wim Hof yet. And I didn't realize that cold does not really hurt you. It's actually a great metabolic accelerator. And so I got a great picture on Instagram where Julia actually took the photograph where I'm standing in the snow, barefoot, just out for a walk in like foot deep snow. Was it cold? Yeah, it was cold. But I was getting sun. It was sunny.
Yeah.
And I was only wearing shorts, no shoes, no shirt, no nothing. And so I get a lot more sun now. My vitamin D levels are normal. But, I'm more like an indigenous person now because I'm just outside, like wearing not much.
Which is actually another reason why I love X3. I'm always using it outside.
Yeah.
And I think I remember Ben Greenfield. I think even there was a study he had quoted where they said people were actually stronger lifting weights outside. I have no idea. What is it? Is it the negative ions or what? I have no idea. But just interesting.
It would be vitamin D would be a big contributor, but like I said, there's growth factors we don't even know about yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wim Hof. So is that a guy that you follow a lot of, or
a little?
The protocol? Do you do any of his breathing like on a regular basis?
No.
Or no.
No, but I like cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm into that, and I'll jump into cold water. Yeah, a lot of the people with like protocols that you really have to. I don't have time. I don't have time for that.
Yeah.
I'm so busy and like working on writing this book. Like when people read this book and they realize it's 300 pages with 250 references. Like it was a huge undertaking, but I wanted to document the efficacy of X3 and all the things that go along with it, to the point where it's just irrefutable. And the only people who will argue with it will be the people who didn't read the book or can't read. Yeah.
that could be a lot of people.
Oh, yeah. Bodybuilding.com. Yeah. Yeah. The reason there's the most fitness content, it's really funny. Like fitness is just like an industry where most of the content exists on YouTube. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course, because these people can't read. Or they're not very good at it. And then sometimes you see the comments, especially like my troll comments, like misspelled, like, like the wrong word. Like, like an apostrophe S at the end of every word.
I haven't seen that.
Oh,
Yeah.
you should go
I
read
just need to
some
follow.
fitness comments.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're
Yeah.
following biohackers. You're not
Yeah.
really following the people, the fitness people.
No.
I just like, it's just amazing. But yeah, that's the industry that is, and so. But it's cool because that's not who I'm interested in really engaging with. It's the busy professional, busy executive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for you: we're drinking your Fortagen.
That's right.
This stuff is amazing, by the way. It's the first time I've had it.
You like the taste?
Yeah, it's actually really good.
I get so
why
many
would it-
complaints
yeah,
about
why
the taste.
What's wrong with it?
Well,
I enjoy it.
So I made that one for you, and that's probably a 30-ounce glass. So you probably drank it a little more diluted than some people. I think I filled it up
I
to
like my
about
stuff
right
strong,
there.
but
Well,
I thought
yeah,
it was good.
I mean, it tastes a little bit like lemonade and rocket fuel.
Because I've had other brands too, just so you know, of other essential amino acid brands.
Oh,
So
okay.
I've tasted other ones, and this is good.
Well, this one works.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk
You guys
about.
probably write that down.
Yeah, write that down.
Yep.
Talk to me about, because I've heard you talk about the difference. Again, there's multiple brands out there that have essential amino acids.
Oh, there's been essential amino
You know?
acid products for the last 50 years. The problem is they need to be made in the right way so the body uses them. And we are meant to consume. This isn't the most appetizing thing, but you're asking the scientists, so I want to give you the truth.
Yes.
We're meant to eat rotting stuff. Like really, like if you and I were in a tribe, thousands of years ago, and we had to take down, a mammoth, we'd probably eat it for 2 days, and by the end of that second day, it's sitting there in the sun, it's rotting, and the rotting material, our microbiome is able to digest and gets a different level of amino acids out of the rotting material.
Whoa.
So Fortagen is made out of bacterial fermentation. And again, I know it's not the most appetizing thing, but what happens is the bacteria goes through the rotting material and then completely dies off, and then it's filtered. So, all the other non-essential amino acids are filtered out of it. So you're just getting the benefit of the fermentation without the actual rotting material.
Yeah, I was gonna say because it tastes like
it doesn't
lemon
taste.
lime.
It doesn't
didn't taste
taste.
like fermentation.
It doesn't taste like sulfur or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
So it tastes fine. Maybe a strong lemonade taste, but that's about it. And then, people also tell me it tastes like apples. Did you get apple?
No, I'm not
I didn't.
No.
I don't know. But that's why we don't put a flavor on it. It's just Fortagen. Yeah, it's just what flavor is this Fortagen flavor?
Yeah, it's Fortagen.
Yeah. So so we get some people complaining about the flavor, but also it's such a powerful anabolic protein, so much better, and also it's cheaper. Like anything on the internet, people whine about the price, but like if you look at the fact that for each dose of that you take, it's 50 grams of protein you don't need to eat. Well, any other source of protein of 50 grams, keep in mind, 50 grams of whey only really counts because you got to discount it to 18% of its full value.
Yeah.
So that's 9 grams of protein, quality protein you're getting out of a 50-gram shake. Well, that's pretty worthless.
Yeah.
Why bother taking whey protein? It's only of every 50 grams you take, only 9 actually have value.
Yeah.
So that's that's the most cost-effective approach to getting usable protein in the body. I think it's really there's a reason I came out with it. I did the math and I'm like, this is gold. Like,
Is
it's
this
the best thing to do.
Did this help with you for the extra 30 pounds of muscle you put on? Do you think this was a huge factor, or?
It was a huge factor in comfort and convenience of my life because eating 3 pounds of meat versus 2.5 pounds of meat, boy, that last half pound is not delicious. I don't care who cooks it.
Yeah.
I don't care. I could be at the best steakhouse in San Francisco. Man, like it's just a lot nicer when you don't have to consume that extra half pound. or you can do 2 doses of it. As I've been getting leaner, doing more fasting, I've been doing 2 doses a day. So now there's 100 grams I don't need to worry about.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
Can you hack fasting? I was curious. Like, could you hack fasting by doing this? Does it keep you a little bit more? Is it easier to fast? And by doing it, does it also?
It doesn't screw up the fast. It doesn't screw up the fast. You need 50 calories to stop autophagy, which is really the barometer of like whether the fast is still kind of going.
Yeah.
50 calories. So, if you're fasting and a moth flies in your mouth, it's not like, oh, my fast is ruined. Damn it. Everything's screwed up now. I'm going to lose the Mr. Olympia contest. Like, no, that's not going to happen.
Fortagen is only 4. I was just checking.
It's 4 calories. Right.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So, very, very, very low calorie. And, it's just absorbable material. In fact, the broken amino acids, the incomplete proteins,
the BCAAs
or essential.
Oh, okay.
BCAAs don't do anything, by the way. You might as well eat sand. There's a lot of science on it. Like, it's been disproven for years. I don't know why people still sell it. It's just a joke. I mean, like you wouldn't like. I mean, like I'm trying to think of like a scam. Probably like nobody would go out and buy snake oil. Because it's literally like you told like that's a joke. Like it was like a scam product in the 1800s. But they're still buying BCAAs for some reason. It's just totally incomplete. Like your body can't metabolize it, so it just goes through your system in the form of nitrogen.
Wow.
Yeah, you just piss it all out. In fact, take BCAAs and your urine will look like beer.
Yeah.
It'll be all foamy because there's the nitrogen that you just took as BCAAs that just went right through you and didn't do anything. You need the essential ones. So. Then we have the essential ones, especially when you're in a fast. What's happening with autophagy is you're cannibalizing proteins in the body that you're not using. Old cells, scar tissue. So, like, my fraternity letters are branded into my arm. And that used to stick up by like 0.5 millimeter. And it's been eating itself from the inside. Because of the autophagy and the Fortagen. So the autophagic process is it's converting all that scar tissue into the non-essential amino acids, the ones that your body can make on its own, and then it links up with that stuff and becomes anabolic.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so I can repair tissue, I can repair my skin, whatever.
That's huge.
Huge.
So, dude, I'm totally gonna try this, and I want to try it with just like what you're doing, like the fasting, because I mean that's just like that's like just a
you don't need I just take 100 gram equivalent, so 2 doses of Fortagen when I'm fast, and clearly I really need like 300. I like going about 50 over, so I try and get 300 grams of protein a day.
So you'll do like breakfast, lunch, dinner as far as when you're fasting?
No, just one in the morning, one in the evening.
That's it.
Yeah, this was my morning one today because I just took it easy this morning. So I knew you'd be here a little later in the day. That's it. Yeah, so I mean it's a pretty easy protocol. It's the only supplement I take other than Imperium, which is kind of like a bulletproof coffee sort of replacement or coffee replacement.
Yeah, pre-workout, right?
Or just
focus.
Just like it's a coffee replacement or pre-workout. It's funny, most of our market doesn't know what pre-workout is.
Really?
Busy executives. They don't know what that is. That's a bodybuilding thing. That's a fitness thing.
Completely.
Yeah.
I remember growing up with NO Explode. Like that was a big thing. You got to take your NO before you lift.
Well, and there's these products are really just caffeine and sugar.
Yeah.
And that's garbage. The most pre-workouts. So I go and make like an actual like high quality pre-workout that doesn't have all kinds of like chemical garbage in it. And then I'm presenting it to a crowd that has no idea what a pre-workout is.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny, but they know what coffee replacement is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it tastes delicious. So, and it has electrolytes in it. So that helps again with the fasting. So it keeps you a little bit better
okay.
hydrated. Has beta alanine in it, which is a great energy enhancer.
It helps with recovery too, right?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And then it has MCT oil in powder form in it. So it kind of crushes your appetite, but it's only 25 calories, so it stays under that 50, so it doesn't screw up your fast. Now, if you did like 5 servings of it, you screw up your fast.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping people are using it as directed. I did not understand use as directed was such a hard thing for people to stick to.
Yeah.
I don't know. People know not to drive their car on the sidewalk. Right?
You
Why
know
don't
what?
they
I think
just
there's
follow
something
the
about
directions?
You see the you just don't believe it. You're like, yeah, I don't believe this.
Yeah, I guess.
Let me try. Let me see what happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing after another. Where I'm sure I'm going to get an email where somebody did an enema with Imperium, and they
just
had to
gave
go to
off.
the
I
hospital.
can't wait. When this airs.
Yeah,
A lot of ideas.
I just
good idea, by the way.
Yeah, right. Like there's they just can't wait to misuse it.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's like everything in nutrition and fitness. Like I don't know what it is. Yeah.
All right. Question for you, because I know you're a big vegan, right?
Between meals, 100%.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, because you're not a vegan, you're a big carnivore guy.
Right.
So I was reading David Sinclair's book. He's the big NAD longevity. His book is called Lifespan.
Yeah, really muscular guy.
And if you don't know,
I'm
Dr.
kidding.
John
He's like a
Jaquish
twig.
is being very sarcastic.
Yeah.
So he wrote this in the book, and this was again, his book's called Lifespan. It's all about living longer, blah, blah, blah. So he wrote this: meat is murder on our bodies. Study after study has demonstrated that heavily animal-based diets are associated with high cardiovascular mortality and cancer risk. Processed red meats are especially bad. Red meat contains carnitine, which gut bacteria convert to trimethylene anoxide, or TMAO, a chemical that is suspected of causing heart disease.
Yeah, that's never been proven. That last part?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, people have guessed it has. I mean, if every time you take a bite of your cheeseburger, somebody gets hit in the crosswalk, that doesn't mean cheeseburgers cause traffic accidents. That's just a correlation. So most of the research that he's basing those statements on has been disproven for 20 years. High levels of LDL, and I talked about this earlier, are associated with longer life. So the higher your cholesterol is, meaning the more saturated fats you have, the longer you're going to live. So all that stuff we were told when we were kids, total BS.
Yeah.
And the two greatest drivers of long life that are not argued with at all, and this is where I really came down to, because I said if I keep stripping layers away, because when I wanted to recommend a nutrition program for X3, I really didn't have a bias. I really didn't, I had tried veganism. I felt like garbage, but that doesn't mean it wasn't right. And also, I'm a sample size of 1. So I wanted to look at the clinical literature and, what happens in these test groups. And so I really wanted to find the ultimate nutrition. Like, the answer was out there. I just needed to go back far enough to the most basic physiology research to determine what was really the right path. And I'm very confident that I got it. And the reason is I found research in nutrition that was irrefutable.
Wow.
And that irrefutable research led to 2 things. It indicated 2 things. That the longest life is associated with the highest level of strength and the lowest level of body fat. So if we want those 2 things, what nutrition is associated with those 2 things? Almost no carbohydrates if you want a low level of body fat. I mean, carbohydrates basically do one thing: get you fat. That's it. Yeah. I mean, like there are some justifications for like endurance athletes.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders before a show. Maybe hydration if you want to adjust your hydration just a little bit, but that also doesn't mean eating carbohydrates the Western diet is 70% carbohydrate.
100%.
Yeah.
Cereals, grains. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we know how that worked out.
Right. Everyone's fatter and sicker than ever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and vegan nutrition is 100% carbohydrate.
Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't say that because,
protein.
vegans like to lie and say there's as much protein in broccoli. If I were to eat broccoli and replace my protein, I think I would need something like 25 pounds of broccoli a day.
Yeah.
And never mind the value. Like the value is just like garbage.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be able to digest it. But like just grams of protein, I'd need to eat 25 pounds as opposed to 3 pounds of steak.
Yeah.
So it's not an equivalent at all. Nobody can eat 25 pounds of broccoli. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But aside from that, if you're going to be as strong as possible, animal protein is the way to go. We all know this.
Yeah.
In fact, the athletes who are like vegan, it's usually they're whatever, they have an athletic career, and right when their career is winding down, they switch to vegan, use all their old pictures of when they were eating 100% meat to market some vegan protein and say, this is what you get out of veganism. No.
Yeah.
That's not what happened to you. You're just defrauding people. Also, like a lot of this vegan research is paid for by Kellogg's and Post and
100%.
And
what
Nabisco.
about Game Changers though? That just came out. I didn't watch it, but
100%
is
fraudulent.
Arnold backing that, and I kind of thought like what you just said, fraudulent. I like Arnold, but I was like, come on, man! Like you were not doing that. You were not eating a vegan diet when you were bodybuilding. Come on.
Oh, of course not.
Yeah.
No, he admits that in the movie.
Okay.
No, it was steak and eggs for like every meal.
Yeah.
He is pushing vegan nutrition now. I won't say anything negative about Arnold. I'm friends with his son, who's a great guy, and I don't. A lot of people are like, "Oh, Arnold sold out." Like James Cameron owns a large percentage of the pea protein manufacturing in the world, and he and James Cameron are really good friends. Like, Arnold kind of owes his career. Like that was the Terminator.
Yeah,
that's what started Arnold. Like people didn't discover Arnold in Conan the Barbarian. That was while a great film.
Yeah,
very obscure.
Right.
But the Terminator, everybody saw that.
Yep.
And Terminator 2, even more so. So I don't know why Arnold did what he did, but I'm not. He's not a scientist and never claimed to be.
Yes.
So. Also, not the first kind of strange thing he said. Like if you read the Modern Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding, which is a book that he allegedly wrote.
Yeah. That's a classic.
It's sure.
In the bodybuilding world, that's a classic. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of bodybuilders that think that book is great. It talks about like enlarging your rib cage with a certain exercise. Like you're going to make your rib cage bigger so you can hold more muscle on your upper body.
I'm guessing like what, you suck it in or something like that.
You did it with a dumbbell. It was just like, dude, that's not a thing.
Yeah.
Like, there's 0% truth there, and there never was. And, so, like, he's made misjudgments before, but if he's surrounded by people that tell him this is a real thing, like, he's not a scientist, so he goes, okay, cool. I'll tell people in my book.
Yeah.
So I feel like that may have happened, but yeah, everything that was claimed in Game Changers has been disproven. I don't know that everybody needs to be 100% carnivore.
Yeah, what about women? I was just thinking about that.
Depends what their goals are.
Yeah.
Do you want to put on a ton of muscle?
No, but I mean, okay, here's my goal. Just like Dave Asprey, I just want to live. Longevity, just health, longevity. I just want to.
You need a lot less protein if your goal is not to put on mass.
Okay.
Yeah. Like it may even be half of what I recommend. I recommend 1 gram per pound of body weight or more.
But that's to be building muscle.
Yeah. You may only need half that if you just want to maintain your muscle mass.
Okay.
Which is, and Dave has never tried to even claim that he was athletic or,
Yeah.
you know, he's a fit, healthy guy.
For sure.
That's it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's all he ever wanted to be.
And then, so same thing for women. You just say, yeah, maybe you just cut your protein down, maybe.
Yeah, or now, the protein is a superior food source because you can't store it as body fat. You store fat as fat. You definitely store carbohydrates as fat. You don't store protein.
But
You
what about-
overeat protein, you go into thermogenesis. Your body temperature goes up. That's it.
Okay, because I thought even high amounts of protein will convert into like what gluconeogenesis, right?
Gluconeogenesis.
Neogenesis, yeah.
Yeah. That is a huge fitness myth.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to do an episode of Falsehoods of Fitness on that.
Whoa.
Yeah. So gluconeogenesis is demand driven. So when your brain needs some glucose, it calls on the pancreas to make insulin and begin that gluconeogenesis process. So some of the protein gets converted to glucose. But as soon as that happens, that glucose and insulin bind, and they have an address. It's a package coming from an Amazon warehouse that's going to a place.
To the brain.
Yes, wherever it was called for, or to musculature or whatever. I mean, ultimately, if you eat zero carbohydrate, do you still have muscle glycogen? Oh yeah, via gluconeogenesis.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So you get to a minimal level, and the body's like, okay, we need some glucose here. So it'll make the glucose that it needs, but it's not going to get stored as body fat ever.
I see.
That's not how that works. Right.
It's got a purpose.
Right. So, a lot of the people that get there, I mean, where this comes from is people who get all their, science from memes, from a sentence fragment, like that's not the complete story. In fact, there's books written about this. So when you read a meme about gluconeogenesis, like anybody who makes memes about gluconeogenesis should probably have their dicks cut off because it's a very complicated thing and they're trying to boil it down to like a third of a sentence. No, don't do that. Yeah. There's a reason why I don't make memes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not that simple. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Question. The next thing I want to talk about is TRT. But before I go there, quick question. SARMS. Have you ever done SARMS? And if so, any efficacy, do you think?
So I have high hopes for SARMS.
Yeah.
I believe that the people that are looking for anabolic effect and don't want no one wants the downsides, right? Especially the medical community want the downsides of anabolic steroids. For those of you that don't know what SARMs are, selective androgen receptor modulators. One you'd want to look into following a guy. He's a good friend of mine, Coach Trevor. He just goes by Coach Trevor.
He has a blog or something?
He has a YouTube channel.
Perfect.
And he's a biochemist, and he really is focused on producing. Well, he's not producing, but producing content to get people more knowledgeable on these androgen receptor modulators. So why this is important is instead of introducing a hormone into the body, which can go where you want it to go or maybe where you don't want it to go, it can manifest a lot of different ways. The reason that a selective androgen receptor modulator is important is it goes where you want it to go, in the muscle. Yeah. That's it. So like there are SARMs out there. Now, there's not a ton of research on this, so not nearly the kind that injectable testosterone has. Injectable testosterone has so much research on it because it's been around a long time. SARMs have not.
Yeah.
So the breadth and depth of research is not there. But what we know based on their design is that they're going to be safer.
Yeah.
And the problem is they're not really produced. They're not really released yet. So some people are making sort of like pirate versions. And, are you getting what you really think you're getting? I don't know. Some of the industry experts probably have a better opinion on that than me because I'm not following it.
Yeah.
But I know that the literature that's been published so far in medical journals is they look like they're very helpful and they don't have the downsides that standard anabolic drugs do.
Yeah. Nice.
So I'm not to the point where I'm recommending them, but I do think that is the future of people who want to go above and beyond like what the body can provide and look to supplement in some way. I think we're going to have the same problem like with standard anabolic drugs is people are going to use too much.
Yeah.
Because they think more is better. And another thing, it's like, fitness, like I said, it's like a motorcycle. People just can't wait to screw with it.
Yeah.
And it's like there's a reason that the Tylenol bottle says to take 2.
Yeah.
And not 20. Right? Like your headache goes away with 2. Well, why don't I take 20? I'll probably feel even better.
Yeah.
You probably die. I mean, like it's toxic past a certain level. So they understand it with Tylenol.
Yeah.
They understand it with other medications. But when it comes to performance enhancement, people have a real problem with minimum dose response.
Yeah,
So what is the
100%.
minimum amount of an intervention, whether it's an exercise or a chemical or even a food? Like there is like the minimum. Like I'm not going to eat 10 pounds of steak in a day. It'd be worthless.
Yeah.
Like there's only so much my body can use. When the SARMS do come out, there's going to be a dosage that's associated with the effect that humans want, and no doubt there will be sideways hat guys out there. They'll take 10 times the amount that is recommended because they want to be 10 times bigger, and that's just not the way it works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Tony Robbins. I think I remember hearing a story about him learning like Taekwondo, and he learned some move from his instructor, his black belt instructor, and he's like, "Okay, great. Like, teach me the next thing." And his instructor is like, "No, like you keep doing that like 10,000 times or whatever it was." And there's something about one, mastery, and then just the simplicity and something. Like even like the X3, it's like. This is it. Like, just understand like the beauty in just that simplicity.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I do explain it that way. It's like if you follow the X3 program, like fitness is just a problem that's now solved for you.
Yeah.
You don't really need to keep researching and reading and just leg humping every shiny object that you see on the internet that has some sort of bizarre claim associated with it that's going to get you even better. It's like, no, just do that.
Yeah.
You're going to get exactly what you want if you just do that. There's a guy, I ignore him now, but he was like the most perfect example. Like, I think it was like every third week he would make a big announcement in my DMs that he was going to start doing keto. And I'm like, didn't you tell me that like 5 other times? But it's because every time this guy opens the internet, he finds a shiny object to go chase.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, I'm not going to do keto now. I'm going to do this. So he's haphazardly like switching from one thing to the other, and he gets nothing out of it. The guy doesn't even look like he works out. He's, it's just sad.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I wouldn't ridicule him, and I won't say his name, but like, it's just amazing how, just there's a set of knowledge, and that knowledge is irrefutable, and you can also see it if you don't understand the science. As I understand, I mean, the science it's a full page of reading. It's too much for some people. So, but look at the results from the users.
Yeah,
there's people putting on 20 pounds of muscle with that simple product. 20 pounds of muscle. That's when people complain about the price. Like, first of all, you don't understand what things cost to make, which is a common internet thing. But then the other thing is, like, that delivers incredible forces where your body needs them. So it's going to trigger more growth. So I ask them, what's 20 pounds of muscle worth? Most people will say, God, I'd pay like $10,000 for 20 pounds of muscle. Right. That's what that's going to give you.
Yeah.
So think about the results. It's designed to give you results, and it has to be very powerful. Like the thing has to handle, over 700 or 800 pounds of force.
Yeah.
To be able to trigger the growth. Like, people don't know that they're that strong. or that in certain positions of a movement that they are capable of that, but they are. And once they access that, the growth happens so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.